Probably the least interesting question, Gary, that I often ask to you every time you're in the studio, we're covering the Spurs game, is how long more does Thomas Frank has? And the reason why I'm asking you again, because week after week, Gary, it just seems like he might not last a season. The pessimism around him is astounding.
Yeah, there is a huge amount of pessimism associated with Spurs at the moment. You know, the fans are fed up with it. You know, at times, you know, I like Thomas Frank, number one, as a coach, and I think he did a great job at Brentford. I've moved from a smaller club to a bigger club in myself in the past. Went from Brighton to Tottenham. I found it difficult, and there is a big shift being the manager of Brentford to being the manager of Tottenham. It's another level for sure. I think sometimes he's slightly misunderstood. I think he's got great command of the English language, but when he says things like, we've got to keep doing what we think is right, I think he should be more positive. You know, we've got to keep doing what we believe is right, and that's a much stronger statement, in my opinion. How much longer has he got, Michelle? I don't know, but in the results business, when you're on a run like Spurs are on at the moment, this season, you know, there isn't a great deal of patience for the head coach.
Well, considering week in, week out, we're hearing boos from the home fans in particular. Does it seem like writing on the wall is already there for Thomas Frank?
I hope not. I like him. I think he done a very good job at Brentford. I mean, I believe he signs players from data and stats, which is an interesting way. But I hope he's given more time, and I don't think managers nowadays get enough time in football.
No, but when you look at Spurs as well, you know, hang on a second, they've had Antonio Conte there, they've had Jose Mourinho there, haven't cracked it. So, you know, maybe it's not so much the coach, the bigger problem is the club.
Gary, you mentioned about the similarities through Antonio Conte, through Ange Postecoglou, through different managers under this Tottenham Hotspur side. We're seeing a similar trend because they're doing pretty well in Europe at the moment, fourth in the table, into the last 16 as well. And their home form in Europe has been one of their biggest points this season, which is the complete opposite of what's been happening in the Premier League.
Yeah, listen, no disrespect to the Champions League. You know, this 36-team league initial segment, you know, in my opinion, there's not as much quality there as there is in the Premier League. You know, there are some big clubs, sure, but you know, and Spurs have actually had a really, really kind draw in the Champions League. So I think it's almost been easier to play European football for them. I really do. The Premier League is more demanding, simple as that.
Is it just a difference in quality? That's why Spurs have been able to excel in the Champions League?
Yeah, I think so. I think in the Premier League, I think any team can beat anyone. Where in the Champions League, if you're favourites, then more often than not you're gonna win the game. So I'd say it's a different type of football, if you like. It's more of a passing game in Europe, where the English football, as everyone who's ever played in it, is hustle bustle.
Do you think it's also perhaps that Spurs don't have that pressure to win the Champions League, but there is pressure to perform well in Premier League?
Yeah, because when you think about Spurs, you think of a top six club who should be turning over sides in the Premier League, but obviously there's bigger teams than them in Europe, so they're not expected to go as far in Europe, but they're meant to be challenging on all fronts domestically.
Yeah, without a doubt, and it sounds like it's an excuse. You know, Spurs have 11 what I would call recognised first-team players unavailable due to injury. So then you have to look a little bit deeper than that and say, well, why so many injuries? I think they must have more injuries than any other Premier League side at the moment. So I just think it's the issues and the problems are a lot deeper than the head coach. You know, you can't make a great meal if you don't have the ingredients to do it. And at the moment, Spurs don't have the ingredients, i.e. the players, available.
But is Europe saving Thomas Frank's job at the moment?
Well, yes, because he's getting results there. So, you know, those are pluses. And it is the results business. And today against Manchester City, it's just a huge test for them because, you know, City are a dominant side.
The reason why I asked that is because, well, Ange Postecoglou put all his eggs in the Europa League last season, didn't he? And got them that trophy as well. I wonder if Thomas Frank should be looking at that to replicate that sort of priority?
I don't think he should. I mean, as a fan, you want to win every game, and as a player, you want to win every game. But it's for some strange reason, whether they're just inconsistent in the Premier League at the moment, whether the players are just turning up for Champions League games, who knows? But I mean, you look at the stats there; it's not doesn't make for very good reading.
Yeah, I think the differences between Ange Postecoglou and Thomas Frank is in terms of what's been happening this season and last is fairly similar, isn't it, Gary?
Well, first and foremost, Ange Postecoglou, and congratulations to him. You know, he lifted that European trophy last year with Spurs. Ange Postecoglou didn't throw all his eggs in the European basket until Spurs were safe in the Premier League. I've got to tell you, at the moment, Spurs are not safe in the Premier League.
Do you think they will be dragged into the relegation battle?
They're 8 points clear of the drop zone at the moment. If West Ham had converted yesterday, as they had a good chance against Chelsea, then suddenly it would have been down to 5. No, Spurs are not safe yet.
But are they in a relegation battle?
I personally don't think so. I think Tottenham have got enough there to get out of the trouble that they're in, personally.